Okay, guys, let's get some divorce straight talk in here. So you've been thinking about filing for a divorce and you think you can file. However, I don't want you to be surprised if you run into some kind of obstacles or delays. So, do you really want a divorce? This is something you have to be 100% certain of. The really moral and ethical attorneys out there are going to tell you that unless you are 100% certain that this is what you want, that they cannot help you. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't attorneys out there who wouldn't gladly take your money and go ahead and file paperwork. But good attorneys are going to tell you that unless you're certain that they can't help. So please be 100% certain before you file anything. And that should be something your attorney is also telling you if you do reach out to one. Okay, so one of the first things you need to look at to see if you qualify for a divorce is you need to know the legal grounds per your state, because legal grounds for divorce do vary by state. And I will actually throw in there that not every state just calls a divorce a divorce. So for example, where I reside, it's called a dissolution of marriage. But the legal grounds where I currently reside, there are two options people can use in order to file a divorce. So the first option is that the marriage is irretrievably broken. Now, I will include here that if both parties, at least where I reside, are not on the same page and one party contests that it's not irretrievably broken, then the courts here at least can step in with interventions or possible interventions to try to help salvage the marriage if it is salvageable. For example, they could order like mandatory marriage counseling. Now, the second option people can utilize is that they can claim mental incapacitation of the other spouse. And I am going off memory here, but if I remember right, it had stated that the one spouse had to be ruled or adjudged that they were mentally incapacitated for the prior 3 years of the marriage. So those are the two legal grounds in the state I currently reside in. And I will tell you this, I mean, they can vary greatly by state. For example, I actually know two different people in two different states where they actually had to be legally separated from their spouse for a minimum of a year before they could even start any kind of divorce proceedings. And those states, I was told, tend to do that to just make sure that that's what the spouses really want is a divorce, or if the marriage can be salvaged within that year period. And I actually will say I know of at least two different states from my research and one of my friends that during that year of legal separation, the spouses cannot have any intimate relationships with one another or any other people. I don't know exactly, I mean, what that would mean. I did hear from one person in their state that it would mean they would have to start the whole process all over again, like the legal separation date and everything, and it would draw out, obviously, the divorce paperwork date from there. But so it's really important that you know the legal grounds in your states and the stipulations to those legal grounds. Okay, so other requirements that you have to worry about qualifying for are county residential requirements. Now, where I currently reside, you have to have been a resident of the county for at least 6 months. And quite honestly, I've heard that from a lot of people, so I want to say that's probably the average. So definitely make sure you qualify for the residency requirements. But I do want to share another example with you of where an acquaintance One spouse decided to move out of the family home. So the other spouse and the children lived at the family home while the spouse that left moved to a different county. Well, after a while, the spouse that had moved out decided that they wanted to go ahead and file for divorce. So they went to file for divorce in the county they resided in. However, they were advised that they were unable to file for divorce in that county and that they had to return to the county where the spouse and the children actually resided in, and they had to file for the divorce there in that other county. So just kind of more food for thought for things that you need to look out for and make sure on those qualification steps. So, should you seek the advice of an attorney? Well, I think it's a good idea if you're serious about the thought of divorce and you just want to know your options. You can always research everything online, but if you're really not tech savvy or you don't have the time, you can always call and see. Lawyers obviously know their business, so they'd be able to tell you what the requirements are and given your situation. Now, again, though, when it comes to filing, any good attorney is going to tell you that unless you're 100% certain it's what you want, that they cannot help you. But again, I know there are attorneys out there who will go ahead and do it. Not everyone has the same moral and ethical codes, right? But I do want to bring up an important topic of, have you spoken with your spouse? Are you guys on the same page? Because honestly, depending on what you and your spouse have or have not discussed, it's going to really affect the type of divorce you're going to have. It's always important, and I get if you want to get advice from other people, it's always nice to get advice from friends and family and say, hey, am I overreacting, or am I legitimately in your eyes, being fair here. But anytime there's any kind of conflict or problem, you need to work it out with the other individual involved. And it's always nice to just be on the same page because it does depend on the type of divorce you're going to have. Now, in conclusion, you need to be 100% sure that this is what you want. You need to do your research and see if you qualify to be able to file for divorce in the state and county that you reside in. And more importantly, talk to your spouse. Especially if there are children involved. This is a big thing. It's a big deal. This is literally tearing a family apart and dividing a family. So, it's really important to just be on the same page because, again, it's going to determine what kind of divorce you're going to have. And that's going to lead into the next video that I'm going to make, and that's types of divorce because there are several types of divorce, and depending on the type of divorce that you have, it is going to affect the amount of time and money spent on the divorce. So I really hope that this information was helpful. That's kind of my goal here, and if it was, please subscribe. I'm going to be making more videos just about more topics. I just want to kind of share my knowledge, so thank you, and again, I hope it was helpful.